Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmek Technologies, and I graciously welcome all of you to this edition of Legal Matters. Before I start our discussion, let me invite my friend from Ahmedabad, Mr. Jeet Bhatt.
Thank you, Chandrakant, for introducing me and welcoming me. I'm looking forward for this discussion.
Likewise, Jeet, and just to introduce a little bit more about yourself, you are a very senior lawyer practicing in Ahmedabad High Court and also very well known in various legal verticals. And today we would like to discuss about the farm bills. And there has been a lot of agitation. There are certain farmers which are happy. There are certain set of farmers which are unhappy, and there are a whole lot of politics going around all these three farm bills. So, from your point of view, what is these farm bills? Are they going to benefit us? Not benefit us? Why there is protest? So, I think we will like to know more from you.
Yes, Chandrakant, actually, we see a lot of agitation going on right now and protest in the national capital region due to the introduction of these three bills, which have now been enacted and are the law of the land. So, the parliament in the month of September introduced three bills, which are the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act 2020. The next one is the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Fair Assurance and Farm Services Act 2020, and there was an Essential Commodities Amendment Act 2020. All these acts deal about and what they are, we will discuss. But before, I would like to tell you what is the existing system till now and how the entire agricultural sector was restricted and regulated under the APMC acts of the states. So basically, agriculture falls within the state list under the seventh schedule of the constitution. It's a state subject, and states regulate it, and they carry out uh, act, relating to agriculture. They issue laws and regulations and notifications. But this time, in order to have a entire one nation, one law system, wherein the central government has tried to introduce these bills, and basically it focuses more on trade and commerce, and it tries to do away in not completely, but in a way introduce a new system where the farmers can directly buy and sell outside of the APMC markets. So basically, the purpose of introducing these APMC, that is the Agricultural Produce Market Committees and the Agricultural Produce Market Laws, was because at the time of independence, the farmers were not so well off, and they were. It was seen that they were quite in debt because they had to every year produce uh, uh, farming products, and they needed loans, and so therefore a lot of times the private players used to exploit them, and therefore it was felt that there needs to be a law to protect farmers from being exploited. And therefore in the 1960s, states started to introduce these agricultural produce market laws, and which regulated the sale and purchase, and every farmer as well as the trader who wanted to purchase had to be registered through those what is called as mandis, and every region and area had their own mandis, and through which the trader had to register, and then only he could purchase. And all sales and transactions were noted down and were kept in the register. So this provided for the laws to govern farm produce. It regulated the buyer trader registration, price information, recovery of dues, and dispute resolutions. Now, as time progressed, and as we saw that the APMC Act also was not in tune with the current times of free market and free market economies. And when liberalization has happened to such an extent that almost all sectors, now the government wants to take away its control and push things into the market. So these bills now introduce this new system wherein the farmer and the buyers or traders can directly transact between each other. So that is the purpose of introduction of the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act 2020. The next act which has been brought is the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement of Fair Assurance and Farm Services Act, wherein the farmers can enter into agreements with traders for selling of their agricultural produce. And the agreement and the contracts will be provided by the central government, the form its terms and conditions. And basically, it provides for the protection of farmers on price assurance and farm services. And the third act, which is the Essential Commodity Amendment Act 2020, which now uh, which has been introduced, is that it basically the Essential Commodities Act was originally enacted in the interest of general public, for which certain essential commodities supply, distribution, and production was restricted. But now with this amendment, the supply of foodstuffs, including cereal, pulses, potato, onions, oilseeds, etc., uh, have been removed from the purview of the Essential Commodities Act, and it can be restricted only in the times of war, famine, or extraordinary price rise and natural calamity of grave nature. So therefore, they cannot be brought within the purview of essential commodity, and there cannot be a restriction on its uh, production, supply, and distribution. So these are the three bills which have been introduced and which have now been enacted. And basically, the let me just read the object and purpose of the introduction of this Farmer Produce Trade and Commerce Bill 2020 is that it provides for the creation of an ecosystem where the farmers and traders enjoy the freedom of choice relating to sale and purchase of farmers' produce, which facilitates remunerative prices through competitive alternative trading channels to promote efficient, transparent, and barrier free interstate and intrastate trade and commerce of farmers' produce outside the physical premises of markets or deemed markets notified under various state agricultural produce market legislation, to provide a facilitative framework for electronic trading and for matters concerned therewith. So, this is the aim and object of this act which has been introduced. And the salient features of this act are that any person having a PAN card can become a trader and can enter into an agreement with the uh, uh, farmers either through physical or electronic trading and transaction platforms, and they shall have the freedom to carry on interstate or intrastate trade and commerce in farmers' produce in the trade area. So, one farmer from Punjab and Haryana can sell his produce in any of the states in the country. So, therefore, it gives a wide variety of buyers, which otherwise was restricted to the APMCs of that regional areas. So, therefore, it brings more competition and it gives more options to the farmers to sell their produce. That is the basic salient features. But what is the objectionable objection and what are the dispute which has arisen is that one of the provision, section 6, provides that the market fee or cess or levy which the state APMC acts was levying on the state for every transaction cannot be levied under this act. Second, so therefore, what the states and the APMCs are contemplating is that it will ultimately uh, it it will ultimately be a loss to the state exchequer, and this is a state subject. So therefore, that will create a problem for the state's development, and uh, also it also provides for the dispute resolution, wherein the dispute, in case if there is any dispute between the buyer and the seller, then the same can be uh, put to an end through an conciliation process, wherein the sub-divisional magistrate would be acting like an umpire who will provide for a fair decision. And if that decision is not agreeable to any of the parties, then the parties can also appeal it. But those orders of these sub-divisional magistrate and the appellate authority would be final and binding. And what it does is it takes away the jurisdiction of the civil courts. And that is what is one of the objections raised by the farmers. that this would not be a fair mechanism for dispute resolution. So this is the salient feature of the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Bill, and also with regards to the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Amendment on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act. The aim and object of that act is to provide for a national framework on farming agreements that protect and empower farmers to engage with agribusiness firms, processors, wholesalers, exporters, or large retailers for farm services and sale of future farming produce at a mutually agreed remunerative price framework in a fair and transparent manner and for matters connected therewith. So, therefore, this provides for a national framework on a farming agreement. So, so this act provides that the salient feature provides that the price which is to be paid to the farmer for the purchase of a farming produce may be determined and mentioned in the farming agreement itself, and it also provides for a guaranteed price to be paid for such produce. So therefore it in a way tries to safeguard the interest of the farmers, and these acts certainly benefit the farmers, and it would get rid of a lot of middlemen which are right now existing in the APMC mechanism. So therefore, this is the scheme of these acts, and this is what it provides and lays down.
Jeet, thank you very much for clarifying the law for the viewers. And I'm not a lawyer, and I'm also not a farmer, but I'm a businessman. So I understand the nuances of running any business. Farming is a similar business like any other business. It has a production phase, it has a distribution phase, it has a wholesale, storage, and then retail. So I think all these principles applies to farming. The farmers are producing and then selling it to the APMC mandis, who are then wholesaling it, distributing it, etc. I think you mentioned about the independence in 1947. Situation that time was that almost 80% of the population of India was involved in farming activities. And we have all studied in our books when we were young that 80% is the farming community, etc. But the situation is totally changed on the ground. Today, the farming community has reduced to about 30% population of India, and the farming industry is not similar to any other industry. Even though the law of the doing business remains the same, which is production, distribution, wholesale, and retail. In the event of farmhouse, what happens is that the land produce X amount of produce, whether you are producing a wheat or rice or vegetables, it has a capacity to produce X amount of vegetation throughout the year for hundreds of years. So one big difference in farming industry as compared to other industry is the other industry can actually grow. There is a growth element. Say, for example, if there's a car manufacturer, the car can double up its production and then grow the revenue and then also grow the company size. In case of farm, if you don't add up your land, you can't grow. The growth is only 1 to 2% year on year. So, in nutshell, what has really happened, I'm just doing this monologue with you just to explain to our viewers that what has happened over the last 70 years is that the farming community has reduced systematically because we have a finite land, and the contribution of farming has also reduced because the other industries like IT, manufacturing, automobiles, oil and gas have taken over those because there has been a lot of development in India. The GDP contribution of farming community is actually less than 20%. So 80% is coming from other industries, other activities that Indians do. So I think that is the reality of the whole situation. And then coming to the point where when Jeet had explained about the legal aspect of it, I think the very crucial point is that we have actually not given any elbow room and leg room to farmer. The previous law did not allow farmers to sell his produce in any other to even his neighbor. Suppose I'm a farmer, I'm producing wheat. I cannot legally allowed to sell my produce to my neighbor also. I have to go and have only one buyer, which is the mandi. And as you know, some of our viewers would know that there are two seasons, prime seasons for cultivation in India, and different produces are sold at that time. So the farmer has no choice but to load his produce in his truck or a tractor, go to the government warehouse, and take whatever money they get it,
Fine.
right? And if, they are at the mercy of the person there. So I think, from my opinion, as a businessman, not as a farmer, not as a lawyer, I see as a pure Indian, I see that these laws will free up the farmers from all these compulsion, where they can sell to anyone, they can sell at any price, whatever price they can strike their deals at, and that will give them, that will make them richer, just like any other businessman. So we should not doubt the intellect of farmers that they cannot do business. There are, what I've heard so far is that there are e-portals also started by government of India, where they can sell their produce. So I think we have to ensure that the farmers are intellectually more advanced, and they should welcome these changes, because now they will be able to get more value for their produce. And last thing I want to mention, Jeet, last year itself there has been another farmer protest in Haryana, where the farmers came to know that the peas farmer, the chickpeas farmers, came to know that the APMC bought their chickpeas for 6 rupees. I don't know the measure. I think it's the quintal or kgs. And within one day, in the wholesale market, they were selling it for 20 rupees. So you see, the farmers are, the wholesale market itself is selling it for 400%. So by these laws, I think you're empowering the farmers. But we'll go back to the legal discussion. Why so much confusion? Why the political parties are getting involved? Because we are now, these laws will benefit the citizens.
Right, absolutely. Well said. You really put it correctly. But as you said, that farming business grows 1 or 2%, but you must also see that since independence, the population has also grown 2 to 3 times. So basically, ultimately, the consumers are the people of this country. So therefore, they are increasing, and the agricultural produce should also increase. But recently, when this bill has been passed, what it provides is that today India has become surplus in most agricultural commodity. So certainly, farming and agricultural produce business has grown tremendously. And though people are coming out and not wanting to do agricultural business and want to shift into other businesses, but still agriculture has continuously grown in this country, and it needs the basic fair market and a proper market where it can take it to a next level. And therefore this act is very important, because earlier what the act is to do, and if I may just give the supply chain how it used to work. So initially a farmer has to go to APMC and give the agricultural produce. Then in APMC the commission agent would take it to the traders, and there would be a price discovery where the price would be decided based on the demand and supply. Thereafter, the trader would take it to the transaction agent. The transaction agent would thereafter take it to the wholesaler to the retailer to the vendor, and vendor thereafter to the consumer. So the farmer would sell it at, as you said, 6 rupees, but ultimately it will reach the consumer at 25 or 30 rupees. Because in between, there are so many people who are doing business with regards to the agricultural produce. So now with this new act, the farmer can directly take it to the wholesaler, retailer, vendor, or any of the trader. It can be anyone, and at the price which they can decide mutually. So these people in between who were to decide these prices are completely wiped out in this new system. Though the APMC will still be there and those acts will remain, but the farmer will have a new avenue of selling it directly to other stakeholders. So therefore, he will get a better price. I would assume that the prices ultimately of these farming products would also increase, because the business houses or the corporate houses who would also get involved would also sell it at a profit. So ultimately, the the cost of these products will increase, and ultimately the consumers will be at a loss. But I think the farmers would certainly benefit out of this system, and as it does away with a lot of middlemen who are in the existing system of APMCs.
So, Jeet, let me explain my perspective on this one, especially when you talk about the prices going high. Uh, in my opinion, what will happen in reality is that the amount that the farmers will get, for example, let's go back to our 6 rupees wala example where the farmers are selling for 6 rupees. But in the new system, they will be able to drive more value for their produce. So they may get 15 rupees instead of 6, and the 6 rupees per kg feed, the consumer will have to shell out 100 rupees per kg. Ultimately, when I buy it, I actually buy it for 100 rupees. So my price of procuring it will reduce. And while farmers' income is increasing 300%, my cost of procuring the farm produce will reduce considerably, almost by half. So I will end up paying 50 rupees. And going back to the corporate buyer, I think the confusion has been created. I'll just like to clarify. You know, who's the biggest corporate house which is buying? It is the Nestle. It is
Right.
processed
Pepsi.
Pepsi. Those kind of guys are
Right.
buying, and these places to go and buy from. They have to go to FCI and buy from there. So these middlemen will go out. There are more options for corporate houses to buy from multiple sources, and the farmers will have multiple options to sell their
Right. Absolutely. That's correct. As you said. So middlemen. So it is required in that sense that these middlemen should go and farmers must benefit, because they are very important part of this country. So I think the farmers should understand, allow this law to operate, uh, allow this to grow, and thereafter take a decision where what are the loopholes and ultimately what can be corrected, rather than completely asking for the repeal of the enactments.
So I think the people who are asking for these repeal of these laws are the people who are going to lose their jobs, and the population of those kind of people are the middlemen and the setup which is reporting this to the state government or different political parties. So I think the farmers of all other states like Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, MP, etc. They are not complaining about it. It's only the farmers from one or two states which are complaining. So I think in interest of 30 million farmers in India, hardly 3,000 are on the street. So I think we should just ignore them and move ahead and implement these laws. That is what, as a common citizen, I feel. What is your opinion?
Yes, you are right, but the matters are also before the Supreme Court, and I think the farmers should wait for the uh, judgment of the Supreme Court in this matter. Because if they say that the provisions are unconstitutional or without power, then the only authority which can say it is unconstitutional is the Supreme Court, and they are already before the Supreme Court. So therefore, there is so they must trust the apex court of this country and wait for its judgment on this issue.
I think I appreciate your point, and Supreme Court is the ultimate authority. Since the matter is in front of the court, the honorable judges will decide for the benefit of everyone. And I leave it at that, and we can discuss this further because this is the matter which is still sub judice. We will come back on the subject, Jeet, sometime in future once the decision is made. But for the time being, this is what we feel. You have explained beautifully, and thank you for finding time to explain to our viewers what it means from the legal standpoint. I think this is going to be very valuable and knowledge-driven discussion for the viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So I will catch up with you next Thursday as usual. Until then, bye.
Sure. Bye.